Hello, and welcome to the Comforting Voice podcast. I'm your host, Shasta Ray, and today I am joined in the studio by my little friend, my little sidekick, my little shadow. His name is Murray. He's my baby cockatiel. Well, he's not really a baby anymore. He's just shy of 2 years old. His hatch day is March 19th, and as I record this, it's mid-February 2025. I'm not sure what the published date will be on this. At any rate, I call him Baby Bird, and the way I affectionately refer to it is his name is Murray, but he identifies as Baby Bird, and he's just the cutest little thing. He will always be my little baby. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the beauty of my pet birds and what they do for me. Now, I've mentioned birds are not for everyone. If you don't have the time to dedicate to them, and they're not for people with certain types of allergies, that can be very bad. And their mentalities are not for everyone. They're very specific, and you've got to be able to have the utmost patience and, here again, time to dedicate to them. They need companionship, and you can't just lock them in a cage and leave them there. They thrive when they can interact with you and be an active part of your day. So, yeah, and they're very messy, actually. They're incredibly messy, so it's kind of hard to stay on top of all of the mess they can generate. You have to be diligent. But let's talk about all the awesome things and a little bit more, because this is actually baby bird season. Baby bird season is upon us. And yeah, Murray is a big part of that. So 2 years ago, let's rewind a few episodes. So I had Zoltan, the podcast bird, on for the second episode. And he was pretty silent through that, but he was kind of hanging out. And he'll be back for more episodes. But that's Zoltan the podcast bird. And a little trivia about Zoltan the podcast bird. He has a fan base in Zimbabwe, oddly enough. So shout out to Zimbabwe if you make your way to this podcast. So anyway, when I got him, it was not quite 3 years ago. It was the very beginning of March, and he had just been put out on the showroom floor in a big cage of budgies the day before, and he was right at 6 weeks old. So he was a baby budgie, just old enough to be adopted out, or sold in that case. And that started my journey. And then eventually, the local pet store here had a little just typical yellow face, green phase parakeet in their inventory, in their bird room with the budgie cage. And oh, that little bird caught my eye. And I watched him for about a week and a half. And one day I was just like, I probably went in there like 4 times. Every couple of days I would go in there and gaze at him. And I don't know what it was about him. I had to have him. Had to. And maybe I'll have him on an upcoming episode. His name is Cricket. So when I bought him, I'm kind of a smart aleck. I just like to mess with people. The girl that was at the checkout and rang me up, I made some sort of comment. I said, yeah, I'm getting this little bird. What's his name? And she just looked at me like I was out of my mind. Because sometimes I just throw stuff at people to see what they do. And she goes, you get to decide that. And they had packaged him in a box that had screen window cutouts with screen in it for airflow. Okay. And it was originally a box that crickets were shipped in, because they sell crickets to the crowd of people that have pets that feed on crickets. So he was packaged in a cricket box because they have windows with screen cut in the sides, and it's great to take a bird home in. So, that said, the box said Cricket Box. So I said, oh, well, it says right here on the box, Cricket Box. I guess his name is Cricket. And she just looked at me like an alien had just burst out of my chest. I mean, the reaction was hysterical. And I suppose somebody my age doesn't throw that at young people. At the time, I was 54 years old, and this girl was probably maybe 20, so I probably caught her off guard pretty good. At any rate, the whole scenario amused me so much that that's his name. It's Cricket, and he's green, and he chirps, and he hops around, so it fits. And his little personality just fits. Cricket works for him. So then I get in touch with a bird breeder, and the bird breeder lives here in my state and lives north of me. And they do a lot of hand-raised baby cockatiels, this sort of thing. They have other birds. They have conures and Indian ringnecks and other species of parrots. Experts in breeding them, experts in selling them. Anyway, very responsible, and everyone in the state basically recommends them. So, that said, I get in touch and I said, I am ready, and I had inquired about their birds in the past, and I tossed around, should I get a conure or should I get a cockatiel? I had interacted with a friend who had a cockatiel, and I decided this is a good bird to start with that's a step up from the budgies. Budgies are great. They're high energy. They're kind of goofy little spaz birds. But as far as like a parrot, they're a good entry-level bird, great for everyone. They're calm, and they're good starter birds, especially when you get one that's hand-fed, hand-raised by a responsible breeder, and you don't have to tame them. So budgies can be, when you're talking about the budgies, they can be hit or miss. When I brought Zoltan home, he was the wildest little crazy man. Oh my gosh. He came from a different pet store, and when I got Cricket, I was amazed by him. He was just calm and curious, and he was tame from the get-go, and he was a baby, but he did not have that wild factor. So I don't know what the difference in the genetics and the bloodlines between where the first pet store raises their own stock and the pet store locally where I got Cricket tends to use more of a private breeder. So I don't know if they could have hand-raised their babies as well. He could have been hand-raised or at least tamed before he got sent over to a pet store for being sold. So anyway, I get in touch with my breeder and I say, hey, I decided on a cockatiel. I want to put in an order. I decided I want a male. Let me know. I want the first male you have. And they DNA test their babies so you know if you're getting a male or a female. They're very responsible. And that's a good thing to know because their personalities are a little different. But to look at them, there's very little that you can tell sometimes as to, is this a male or female bird? So the personality type I wanted with the male cockatiel is one that would sing and be more vocal and have a higher chance of repeating words and that sort of thing. The females are a little bit more reserved and they don't make as much vocalizations. They're a little bit more quiet. They do chirp and make their own little cockatiel noises, and they can get very bonded with their owners just like the males, but the males tend to be a little more vocal. And a lot of times that's the case with Murray. He gets very chatty in the mornings and in the evenings. So I brought him home just like Zoltan. He was right at 6 weeks old. And when I brought him home, it will be 2 years at the end of April this year. And oh my gosh, I just started handling him constantly all day, every day, except in the evenings. I would put him in his cage in my bedroom with TV on, and he would get to watch 2 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show every day. So he would hear the theme song twice per episode, beginning and end of the episodes. And then I worked with him. So he says all kinds of stuff and silly made-up songs he sings that I've taught him. He sings the Andy Griffith song. He has adopted a new theme song, which is the Leave It to Beaver theme song. He loves it. And he's a silly boy. He says all sorts of crazy stuff. He doesn't tend to talk very much when I'm here in the studio. He's playing with a toy right now, though. You might be able to hear him rattling around up there. So anyway, this is the time of year that it's baby bird season. We're going to talk about that in a second. But back to the breeders. We've been friends, and I have since, with all this bird adventures, started working on freeze-dried formulas for birds, and I grow microgreens for them, and I have my own microgreen freeze-dried formula, and I'm reselling birdseed now. So I have my own little online shop. It's not a big business. It doesn't really bring in income. It kind of breaks even right now because it's that small and that new. But it's a fun thing to do, and I feel like I'm doing good things for birds. I'll try to remember to put the web address in the show notes in case anyone is interested in that. I've got bird seed for the tiny beaks like the finches and canaries and budgies, as well as the small beaks like cockatiels and conures, on up to medium beaks like the smaller parrots like the larger conures and the mini macaws. So you can take a look-see if that applies and see if that's good for you. And I'm kind of in and out online when I have the freeze-dried formulas available. So I'm between batches right now, and I'm working on a freeze-dried vegetable blend that I can just freeze-dry and put online too. Because these birds are so hard to get them to eat veggies. And even if you buy small quantities, a lot of times when you just have small birds or a couple of birds, a lot of it goes to waste if it's not vegetables that you're eating. So there's some good stuff about freeze drying. It retains the highest level of nutrients, vitamins, and enzymes. So I'm working on that so they get all of that goodness and all of the fiber, and they are more inclined to eat stuff that they won't eat raw. They have really weird tastes, so it gets challenging feeding them healthy stuff. Anyhow, I got this little squirt home, and we have been inseparable. We are just best buddies. But Emmy, the mini macaw, who was making her debut on the past couple of episodes, she's just kind of a one bird, one person bird kind of a bird. And she loves her time with me, and she appreciates the fact that I associate with the other birds, but she doesn't want any part of that, and she gets very territorial. So I have to keep Murray away from her, and I don't let them on me much at the same time unless like I'm moving one from one perch to the next and the other one's on my shoulder so they don't have access to each other, because I just don't want any accidents to happen with very strong beaks, right? Not fun. In doing so, Emmy takes a lot of attention, and she needs a lot of companionship. She doesn't have to be on me and interacting with me the whole time. Sometimes I have little play stands and areas she can keep herself occupied, toys that she plays with, and she just likes being next to me and being able to be in the same space, and then she's happy. But Murray, he's having a hard time sharing me, and he doesn't like the budgies very much. He doesn't. But Zoltan, oddly enough, he seems very empathic, and when Murray is pouting and throwing a fit because he can't hang out with me because it's Emmy's time to hang out with me, Zoltan actually goes over and hangs out with Murray and tries to keep him company, and Murray's kind of a little turd, and he waves his beak around at him and doesn't really appreciate the effort very much, So anyway, I tend to, every month or so, I will load Murray up in his carrier, and we go up north and we visit his breeder. And so he has friends up there, human friends. He has a bird friend up there, and he just gets some difference in his day, a little bit difference in the month, something else to do, something else to think about, and he gets to associate and socialize in a different manner. So that's good for him. Last time I went up there, I was not able to take Emmy. She just refused to get in her carrier. Sometimes it's just better to not force them. You don't want to tangle with a beak that's that large and that strong. And when you force a bird to do something, it damages the trust levels between you. So anyway, long story short, I emailed his breeder a few weeks ago, and I said, I think the time has come where it's getting harder to balance attention between these two birds. Both are very intelligent, and both are demanding of my time. and they don't share space well in their immediate circle. So at any rate, we put in an order, and the next bouncing baby bird that hatches out, that's a boy, will be Murray's baby brother. So anyone out there, would you like to know what the baby bird's name is going to be? I have selected the name Baxter. How many of you out there know the correlation between the name Murray and Baxter? Oh my goodness, if you know the answer, and no cheating, you can't do any Google searches, hit me up, thecomfortingvoice@gmail.com, and you will get a shout out on the show. And so that said, yeah, Murray needs a friend. And cockatiels are typically very social with their own kind, although sometimes it can take them, just like us, it can take them a little bit of time to get to know each other. So I have put in an order for a bouncing baby boy bird so that Murray can have a little brother to pick on. And this is bird season. So as I record this, his brother could be being born right now. He could be being an egg that was just laid today, or maybe he's an egg that's just hatching today. His breeders have one of the bigger colonies of unrelated adult cockatiels in the state, so he puts out really good quality birds. And this is when they're starting to lay eggs and produce babies. So as soon as he gets a DNA tested male, and I put in a request for a radically different color than Murray so that I don't have twins. I want them to look different. So as soon as I get a male that looks different and not exactly like him, and he's kind of the typical gray coloration, so I want to try to get one that's more of a yellow or a larger amount of yellow on it, different markings, maybe a Lutino. We'll see what happens. They also have the white and gray with no yellow on them. The white face, I think they call them, cockatiels sometimes. So we'll see. And it just depends. They will let me know as things progress. Now, I do have one other bird that I obtained a little over a year ago, and I identify his birthday as being Valentine's Day, and I kind of skipped over him in the storytelling. And his name is Bug. Bug has the same coloration as Cricket. He is a yellow-face, green-body budgie, but he's an exhibition show budgie, scratch and dent. He did not make the grade for show or breeding, so he ended up in a pet quality sales bin. So my friends up there, they have contacts with other bird people, and they know some very knowledgeable and clean resellers of these scratch and dent show birds, as we call them. Just my affectionate little way to say it. They're hard to find, and nobody that is doing this has websites, it seems. They just kind of have local knowledge and people come to them or something. I'm not sure. I think they hit bird shows and stuff like that too. You have to be very careful with birds that you buy and you don't know the reseller. Everyone's heard of the chickens having the bird flu that's spread rapidly. Birds are like us when it comes to their airborne diseases, their viruses. They're little birdie versions of cold and flu. It spreads like crazy through them. So it's very important to me to get healthy birds from a very good source. And a little over a year ago, I obtained Bug. And Bug is another one of my little dream birds. He is the sweetest little thing. He's silly, he eats good, and all of the other birds love him. So he gets along, he sings all day, he's got the most beautiful voice, and I may bring him down here and just see how it is to record with him. He's so vocal and he never stops singing that I gotta make sure that it doesn't, get irritating for you guys while you're trying to fall asleep and get some slumber. Don't want that. So we'll see how that goes. What do you think? Do you have an opinion? Do you want me to bring the vocal birdie down here? He just sings and chirps and warbles and makes beautiful noises. So we'll see how that goes. Anyhow, Murray's sitting up there looking at me and looking very proud of himself for being on the top of the play gym right now. Usually he's insisting on being on me when I record and trying to destroy all of my equipment. He is very obsessed with the cables, and he has done a number on my mouse pad. Birds, they're crazy. They're crazy, I tell you. They have such personalities. I would say to describe owning a bird is kind of like a cross between a toddler and a space alien. Absolutely. They get into everything. They have their own opinions. They're going to repeat stuff inappropriately if they're going to repeat it at all. And when you least want them to. They're very destructive. And the space alien side of them, you just don't really understand how that brain in their head is working. They're very amusing, but they're very high maintenance, and you have to watch out for their safety at all times. And you have to be a companion to them at all times, just like a child. Much like a child. But, like dogs or cats, you can kind of scold them and give them cues in different ways when they do things you don't want, and you're trying to deter them. With birds, it gets way more difficult. You cannot scold them. You cannot punish them. You cannot do anything. Birds will be birds, and you cannot get mad at them for being what they are. So you have to use some different types of psychology on them to draw out the behaviors you want and stifle the behaviors you don't want, or shape and mold those behaviors so that it works with living with you in your space. Because even the tiny little budgies are highly destructive little animals, and you have to get them things to relieve that nature of chewing and destroying. And the bigger the beak, the more the destruction. And when it comes to Murray, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many computer mouses I've gone through. I think I'm on my 6th mouse in 2 years' time. No joke. That's how many he's gone through. And my recording equipment here has electrical tape from where he has tried to sever the cables. My keyboard cable upstairs on my work computer is looking similar. So I have to watch it with him. And you want them to stay safe too. I have seen online people have the bigger birds with the much bigger, stronger beaks, and they will absolutely completely demolish laptops and the like. I have to watch Murray. He wants to pull the buttons off of my laptop. So yeah, they're entertaining and humorous, and it keeps me on my toes. I have to provide them the right kind of diet so that they remain the darlings that I want them to be and happy. But I also have to keep their minds occupied and give them something to do through the day. Wonderful little companions. Silly, silly, silly. But yep, it is baby bird season. So I will be getting a new addition to my little flock family soon enough. And I'm not really sure what to expect with that. I'm going to do this as a companion to Murray, but I also want to bond very tightly with that baby bird also. And as I mentioned, they're a lot like us. So just because you get thrown in the same room as another human being doesn't mean you instantly like each other or want to hang out with each other or have your lunch together. You want to get to know each other first, right? And I suppose people out there that have cats, dogs, anything, sometimes you have to go through an introduction period and monitor the situation so they get to know each other. I think we're all like that, I'm pretty sure that's a way we can all relate on some level. Oh my goodness. But have you ever had that time where you meet someone and it's awkward, you don't know what to think of each other for whatever reason? Maybe it was school, or maybe it was work, or whatever. I will conclude this with an interesting story that just came to mind as I mentioned that. When I was in 8th grade, so thinking back, I would have been 13 going on 14 school year, 8th grade. And in science class, they had tables that had 2 seats per desk. And it was assigned seating. So I got to sit next to a gentleman named Jim. And he and I remember looking at each other. We were probably terrified of each other. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Jim. Yeah, I'm Shasta. And we didn't really know what to think about having to be at that table in science class. But as time went on, we kind of loosened up, got along okay. And by the time we graduated high school, he was one of my best friends in my circle of friends. We were out of touch for many, 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 many years until this past 5 years or so. And we found each other on Facebook, and now we're in touch on Facebook, and he's back into my circle of friends. Now we're not in touch every day or anything, but we sure as heck know that we got each other's back, and we can always count on each other, even if it's just to say, hey, I miss you. Hey, I miss you too. And, you know, he's got a wonderful wife. They've got not only kids and grandkids, but they are on their next level with great-grandbabies now. So, you know, some of those awkward moments turn into lifelong best friendships, you know, and you get to watch each other go through all different phases of life, or maybe you catch up years later and you pick up where you left off and you have all kinds of stories to tell. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm hoping that that kind of story happens with my birdie Murray, my little cockatiel, my sweet baby bird. He's getting his own baby brother pretty soon, and I'm sure he's going to beat him up and pick on him, and it's going to be stressful, and I'll have plenty of stories to tell you here that I really hope you're sleeping through and you don't hear because you're snoring and you're off in dreamland. All right, we're going to conclude this and just remind you, check the show notes, check the show description, however you're listening in. I've got all my links. I've got my link tree there. If you click on that, that's where you're going to find all my connections to my website, to my YouTube. And thank you so much for all of your patience while I am ramping up on getting this out on different platforms and stuff. I still have a number of episodes yet to record and get published, and we're just going to do this on Spotify for a while. And then we're going to get going on all of the major platforms out there so we can just, boom, have basically some binge listenability, you know, to go with. And if you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, great way to find me. However you listen, just make sure you hit that subscribe, follow button so you get notified. And check out all the links. I got some cool stuff going on. If you like coloring books and you like art stuff, that is where you want to be with the Color Bug and the Color Bug universe. Check that out. And that link tree is on the link tree for the Comforting Voice. So go check it out. I've got it all there for you. I got your back. Yes, I do. All right, we're going to conclude this. I hope you're dozing. I hope you come back next time. All right, that's all I got for you today. And Murray is just giving me a look. So I think the time has come for us to go upstairs and chill and go do something else for a while. He wants some attention. All right, have a great one, everyone. I hope you sleep well and get plenty of rest and wake up refreshed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.